Today, we're diving into a story from the dawn of humanity, and it is intense. We're talking about a family curse, an accidental killing, and one of the most haunting pleas for justice you'll ever hear. This is the story of Lamech. Everything really hinges on this one single line. It's part desperate prayer, part prophecy, and it tells you just how far things had fallen. Remember Cain, the first murderer? He was promised sevenfold vengeance. So how on earth did his descendant Lamech end up demanding 10 times that? Well, let's get into it.
All right, so our story actually starts not with darkness, but with this incredible little spark of hope in a world that was just getting more and more corrupt. It's this moment of divine intervention right when you least expect it.
And here's what's so wild about this. Zillah, who is Lamech's wife, is old. She considers herself withered, way past the point of having kids. But then the Lord opens her womb. This isn't just a baby being born. It's a huge statement. It's a sign that even in a generation that's failing, God can still bring new life.
And from this miracle, 2 children are born. First, a son, Tubal Cain. His name basically means, after I had withered away, I got him. He's destined to become this master craftsman, a smith. Then they have a daughter, Naamah, whose name means pleasure and delight, like a little bit of comfort after all those hard years. For just a second, it feels like maybe, just maybe, things are looking up.
But that tiny sliver of hope, it all comes to rest on this very fragile and ultimately fateful partnership between the very old and the very, very young. And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. On one side, you've got Lamech. He's 65, his strength is failing, and most importantly, his eyesight is getting really dim. On the other side, his son, Tubal Cain, who's only 7 years old. The boy is literally his father's eyes. The old man's experience is completely dependent on the kid's sharp sight. Talk about codependence. So picture this. They're out hunting in the fields. It's misty, visibility is terrible, and the world is just a blur to Lamech. His young son is guiding his every move. And then, out in the haze, something moves.
And this is it. This is the fatal mistake. Tubal Cain, remember, he's just a kid. He sees this figure and thinks it's an animal. From way out there, through the mist, he can't make out the shape clearly. To him, it's a target.
So what happens next is the absolute tragic climax of this entire story. It's the moment where generations of bad blood and wickedness get repaid in one single, irreversible action.
Tubal Cain tells his father to take aim, and Lamech, who trusts his son's eyes completely, pulls back that bowstring. He can't see a thing himself, right? He's just relying entirely on the word of his 7-year-old son.
And he lets it go. The arrow just cuts through the air, flying straight and true towards that blurry figure in the distance. The arrow finds its mark. Far away, the figure just collapses. The hunt, it seems, is over. For a brief moment, there's probably just silence as they think they've made a successful kill. But then, they start walking towards it. And as they get closer, that blurry shape starts to come into focus. And it is not an animal. It's a person. That feeling of success just instantly turns into this cold, creeping dread.
The man lying dead on the ground is Cain, their own ancestor, the very first murderer. In this absolutely shocking twist of fate, Cain's wickedness has been repaid by the hands of his own descendant, who had no idea what he was doing. The family curse has come full circle.
So, the death in the field, that was just the beginning. The real devastation happens when the news gets back home. Lamech's family is shattered in an instant. And just look at this reaction. It's not just sadness, it's pure rage. His wives, Ada and Zillah, they are so overcome with grief and anger that they want to kill him. They hate him from that moment on. They completely separate themselves from him, physically and emotionally, and they won't even listen to his side of the story. That same home that saw a miracle birth is now completely fractured. Can you imagine the atmosphere? The delight is gone. Now it's just filled with these harsh shadows and unspoken accusations. The family is just destroyed.
And this brings us to Lamech's desperate plea. He's been shunned by his entire family, and now he's trying to make them understand not only what happened, but what it all means in the grand scheme of things.
He literally begs them to listen, and his defense is so simple and so tragic. He says, "I am old and gray-haired, and my eyesight is failing. I did this without knowing. It wasn't on purpose, it was an accident, born from his own physical weakness and a misty field."
And this is where he makes that famous, mind-bending argument. He reminds them about Cain. If Cain, who deliberately murdered his brother in cold blood, was going to be avenged 7 times over, then surely Lamech, who killed by total accident, deserves an even greater measure of justice, 77-fold. It's this incredible plea for proportional justice. And, his words do eventually get through to them. Ada and Zillah come back to him, but something is permanently broken. They never have any more children. And why? Because they can sense that this whole tragedy isn't just about their family anymore. It's a sign that God's anger with humanity is growing and that a much greater destruction is on the horizon. And while all this family drama is playing out, a much, much bigger chapter is closing for good. Adam, the very first man, dies. He's 930 years old. His burial is this huge, solemn event done with the honor you'd give a king. And then, in a really crucial move, the garments of skin that God himself made for Adam in Eden, they get passed down, not to the cursed line of Cain, but to Enoch.
Now check this out, because this is some fascinating divine math. The Lord had told Adam, "On the day that you eat from it, you will die." But what's a day to God? Well, 1,000 years are like a single day. Adam lived 930 years. He died within that 1,000-year day. The prophecy was fulfilled to the letter.
And that's where we're left. Lamech's personal tragedy becomes this huge symbol for the state of the entire world. The first man is gone. His firstborn's family line is just tangled up in curses and accidental death. All the hope, symbolized by those sacred garments, has passed to a completely different line. And it leaves this massive question hanging over everyone. In a world this broken, who was left to lead the way?